Irashaimase! Hello and welcome to Fataris' Kitchen. I'm your host, Chef Fataris. It's time once again for Shoot 'em Up Saturday, and on the menu this week we have Trigger Witch, a fun Zelda-esque twin-stick shoot 'em up. What kind of taste will it have? Let's get cooking and find out. From developer Rainbite and publisher East Asia Soft, Trigger Witch released for most major platforms in late July of 2021. Now this title is a really interesting fusion of a couple genres. It's basically like this big action-adventure title, but with the mechanics of a twin-stick shoot-'em-up. So, hence the Zelda-esque nature of it. So if that's something that sounds interesting to you, this is one that I highly encourage you check out, as it does have a good price point. There are some issues with the title. It's not perfect by any means, but I do think it's worth your time and worth your money. So diving into the game itself, I'm actually going to go and load up a save, so one moment please. So here we find ourselves a little ways into the game. This is basically just past the introduction section, and it's the first real opportunity you see to get the first opportunity you see the mechanics in the game at play. So this section is more or less like our tutorial, so we'll just kind of skip past the story. You can see here that the game very much handles like a twin stick. We can move with our left stick, we aim with the right stick, and then use right trigger as indicated here to fire our weapon. So this section of the game kind of does a good job of basically teaching you the game through show, not tell. Most of the time we're like just given like a little hint as to what the mechanics might be, and then we have to follow through with what we've like learned throughout the course of gaming and the course of what it's being shown there, how to get past the gameplay. So there is some movement mechanics. One thing that we're getting taught about here is our dash. So real quick, let's talk a little bit about what we have as far as the HUD. So in the top left, we have our health bar, and under that health bar, we have a couple rainbow icons, and those represent our dash. So when you dash, they'll drain, and once they refill, you'll have a dash available. So you actually have two dashes available from the get-go. So this part of the tutorial is teaching us how to use our health vial. As you defeat enemies, you'll drain their life essence, and you'll fill a life vessel, bottle, which is next to our health bar there, that we can use to refill our health if it gets low. There's also some interesting reload mechanics. So by default, you always have a hand cannon, which will reload either automatically, or you can reload it as needed. That's the only weapon that's like that. The other weapons in the game behave differently. So you'll load up those weapons, and or rather those weapons will be loaded when you switch to them, and then once the ammunition is depleted, you have to switch off them. So you can kind of see the basics here, but let's switch to a more advanced save so you can kind of get a better idea of the way the game looks. So one thing this game does have, it has a really nice new game plus mode. So you can, once you've completed the game, you can come back into it with basically a fully loaded character. So as I was saying, there's an interesting mechanic for how you reload your weapons. So once you've started the game, we'll play through the game, and you ultimately unlock 9 additional weapons, or rather 8 additional weapons, 9 total, including your hand cannon. And those weapons behave differently from the hand cannon. So some great examples is you've got like the Uzis, which are actually a lot of fun to use. But as you're draining those weapons, there's not a possible way to refill the ammunition. So there's a couple ways you can do that. Either you switch off to another weapon in your inventory, or you switch back to the hand cannon. And after a period of time, you'll see kind of that little blip there that the Uzis have recharged, or rather reloaded. So another really interesting and fun feature that Trigger Witch has is throughout the entire game, it's possible to play co-op. And the co-op itself just kind of acts as an extension of the first player. You've got all the same abilities, and your weapons also happen to be at the same level. So At this point, the tutorial actually is quite like, let's see, silly, but it's still a good like way to kind of show what's going off in the game. There are like several like Zelda-like puzzle mechanics where in a lot of cases we can't clear a room until we've defeated the enemies in the room, or there's other particular mechanics involved where you have to like open doors or solve puzzles. So in a way it's kind of like a puzzle like action adventure, let's see, title, but with shoot 'em up mechanics, which is definitely unique. Like this is an example here. So in order to get this treasure chest over here, which contains a key, you need to shoot this orb, which will unlock the door over here, which we couldn't get past otherwise. And but in doing so, we also have these cannons that are shooting at us. Just things like that. There's also some like switches that are like timed. There's dungeons that play around with like finding certain ways to open doors or like moving batteries around. And throughout the course of the game as well, in the dungeons you'll have these little spinning like teleporters. So this is one area where I do have a complaint about the game. So you can only move to these teleporters from one of the other teleporters, and some dungeons just simply do not have enough of them. So that out of the way, we can show you a little bit of the way that this game looks, and in a lot of ways how it kind of looks like a Zelda-like title. So moving through the munition thicket, we'll find ourselves back at the starting town. I have to take out some mushrooms along the way. So there is a fair bit of gore when you defeat enemies. It is possible to turn that off. So you can either do that from the main menu, or you can access all the options from the start menu. So going into the gameplay, they'll allow us to turn on Pinata mode, which, well, you'll see the effect there. And this one I really like because it just adds a fun, festive feel to the gameplay. We do also have the ability to adjust text speed. There's like the font as well if it's problematic for you. And then there's also screen shake, which, as often the case, I do have turned entirely off. Confirm changes, and really I do like the options that are available in the game itself. So the town has some really fun little features for your gameplay. There's the ability to upgrade your health. Rather than in like Zelda where you get health from defeating bosses, there's a shop where you'll be able to upgrade your health, as well as a shop that can upgrade your weapons. So here's the health shop, is just basically your potion shop. I've already upgraded the health all the way, and in addition to that, you can also buy maps which will show you location of secrets in the areas you've been. So like this map here, there happens to be this building over here that's got a question mark on it. It's got a secret. So let's go check that out. The dash is definitely your fastest way to get around, but sometimes it's a little hard to use. So in this house here, the secret is this purple chest, which contains an upgrade kit. And that upgrade kit is used here at this armory, the Barrel of Parts. So this is one of the really fun and great elements of this game, I feel. You've got the ability to upgrade all of the weapons that you unlock in 4 categories. What that upgrade kit allows you to do is it allows you to unlock a certain type of category. So say we've got, you can see how many upgrade kits we have in the bottom right, as well as how many gems. Those are used to actually pay for the upgrades once they're unlocked. So like this Battle Blaster, for example, if we unlock its damage, now I can go and buy additional damage for it, and you can see the values increase as we purchase more. But one of the things I really love is you see the option for refund weapon upgrades. So if you've got one weapon earlier in the game and you've upgraded it, but you decide you like a new weapon you've just gotten better, you can completely refund your weapon upgrades, and you can use the money and the upgrade kits to upgrade the other weapon instead. So one thing I do highly recommend, though, is with the way the reload mechanics work, you're going to be using your hand cannon more than any other weapon. So I highly encourage the first thing you do with your upgrade kits and your gems that you get from the enemies is to fully max out the hand cannon. Trust me, will be one of those things that just really helps your overall experience in the game itself. Well worth it. Definitely the best recommendation I can give you for this particular game. But as you can see here, there are certain like weapons that I've enjoyed more than like others, so I've been experimenting with unlocking the different abilities of them. But the 4 categories are, I'm sorry, I should have gone over this, was like you can upgrade the damage, the rate of fire, the ammo capacity, very important, and the reload speed. So with the town and a little bit of the tutorial out of the way, let's actually dive into the gameplay itself. Here we find ourselves in the Firearm Foundry, one of the first Here we find ourselves in the Firearm Foundry, one of 3 dungeons you can potentially explore once you've cleared the tutorial. So that is nice that you have the ability to kind of more open-endedly explore the game. It's kind of broken down into a couple sections where you've got 3 dungeons you can explore, then 2 dungeons, and then we have our final dungeon gameplay-wise. Oh, by the way, this is the festive environment I was talking about. So rather than all these, the gore that you get from defeating enemies, when you have Pinata mode turned on, the ground is covered in this candy and confetti, and it's just really fun. So, in the fact, let's see, one of the interesting elements that exists in the Firearm Foundry is you've got all these conveyor belts showing off just some like let's see, movement options that you have available. And there's also some puzzles involving them as well, where you have to like move around conveyor belts, shooting like certain like door triggers, that sort of thing. It's like a really decently put together, with that caveat that I was mentioning. There aren't enough like teleporters. So what that basically means is there are situations where sometimes you'll like miss a key, you have to backtrack to get that key, and then instead of the ability to like easily warp to where you need to go, you're spent moving all the way through the game itself, or rather the stage itself, just to get back to where you originally were. It just kind of kills the pacing of the gameplay, and I wish that you could just access the teleporters from this map instead of just being able to use the map. Actually, from here, just warp to where you want it to go, and it would just really speed up the gameplay, in my opinion. There's also another mode of gameplay that is used in a few sections, and that is... So that other mode of gameplay I'm mentioning is the game basically becomes a vertical scrolling shoot 'em up. So there are a few sections throughout the course of the game where you'll ride these brooms, and in it, instead of being able to aim in any direction, you just start firing straight forward, but it becomes a twin stick shoot 'em up. And there's definitely some weapons that can help in this kind of scenario, like the shotgun for rapidly taking out enemies. There's some other fun weapons that you will encounter throughout the course of the game. And there's even a boss fight that happens to use this particular mechanic. It is generally, it's a pretty fun fight, if let's see, a little bit silly. That brings me to another like minor little quibble that I did have about the game, though. I would have liked it if there was a boss health indicator in the boss fights. It kind of is a little bit hard to know at what point you're going to finish a fight, and where like life management is always an important thing in any game where you can refill your life at any point. It's just nice to know how much time you have left in the fight. And that is basically Trigger Witch served up for your enjoyment. So just to kind of go over the minus flavors that I had, let's see once again. Sometimes I feel like the pacing is a little too slow, and what's partially at the core of that is just like the slower movement or options, or rather the lack of like teleportation options you have in dungeons and also on the world map. It's only possible to warp back to home, but if you're there, you can't really easily warp to any of the dungeons in the game. There's also the potential problem of replayability. I feel like the replayability is not going to be that high, so once you finish the game the first time around, it's not going to be one that you're as inclined to revisit. But aside from that, I really do like the cute pixel aesthetic that the game has going for it. It really conveys a fun 16-bit vibe to it. There's the really interesting genre matchup where you're taking the action adventure type game and you're combining it with this twin stick shoot 'em up aesthetic, kind of giving it a more of a Gungeon feel, but this one's not a roguelike though. And there's things like a casino too where you can spend your gems as well. But there's also a really great value at only $15 US on various platform of your choice. This is one that's an easy recommend just because it's well worth the value in my opinion, and it's fun to kind of see what you can get when you combine together two genres that you might not initially think are ones that go together. And then there's also one that I kind of appreciate that this does even have a physical release available. So if you're interested in picking up a physical release, it's available, well, pre-order at this point, physically for the PlayStation 5 and the Nintendo Switch on the site PlayAsia, which I've used quite a bit in the past for various imports, so I do recommend them, and they're safe enough vendor to do business with. At any rate, that is Trigger Witch served up for your enjoyment. A fun genre mashup experience that is worth your time and your money. Alright, that'll just about wrap it up for this week's episode of Shoot 'em Up Saturday. As always, I want to thank you so much for joining us this week, and I look forward to seeing you again next week.